Miss Hillary Ray. Hillary Ray?
Growing up in Center City, Philadelphia, my parents didn't have a car. So they walked to the grocery store, rode bicycles to work, and carpooled when necessary. So I relied on SEPTA to take me to high school. I went to Central. And I would sometimes take the regional rail to visit friends in faraway neighborhoods. Thus, I never learned to drive until about 3 years ago, when I had an itch to move to Los Angeles, and I figured, why not? It's probably time to learn. And at the time, I was living in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and lived in walking distance from Sharkey's Auto Driving School. And Sharkey's Auto Driving School was voted best driving school in New York by Time Out New York magazine, despite its cartoonish name. And I trusted Time Out New York's judgment for the best slice of pizza in New York, so I figured that their driving school choice was probably a-okay and would do me good. So several mornings a week, I took lessons at Sharkey's Auto Driving School, and my driving teacher's name was Rigo, and rolling the R was mandatory for taking these lessons. And every morning I would maneuver the streets of Brooklyn with no experience, and parallel parking in dead-end, East River, weird warehouse streets with no cars. And by the 13th lesson, Rigo told me that I was ready to take my driving test. And also at each lesson, Rigo would remind me, or mention, that I reminded him of Jennifer Lopez. Now, at this 13th lesson where he told me I was ready to take my driving test, I thought maybe was he as disillusioned about my driving skills as he was about my celebrity doppelganger, because I didn't know which was the accelerator, which was the brake, and in fact, he used the brake in the special driving school car in the passenger seat way more than I ever used the real brake. But I said, okay, and we went to a park in Queens, which was the easy test, Rigo said. And we waited in line in this park in Queens to take the test. And as we waited, I started to panic. I had dreams where I didn't know how to drive, and I was losing control of the car, and I still had to get where I was going, but I never could get there. And this was definitely going to happen in that park in Queens. But I stood in the line, and then I realized I really had to pee. Because when I get nervous and anxious and sweaty and panicky, I just think that I really have to pee. Rigo, is there a bathroom anywhere? Hillary, we are in a park in Queens. Rigo, I really have to go to the bathroom. He stared at me blankly. Rigo, it's an emergency. And he pointed. And he pointed towards a wooded area in this park in Queens. And I knew what his finger was telling me to do, so I scampered over there, and as I did so, it started to drizzle, as if the sky was mocking my huge, urgent manner. So I go to this wooded area, and I squat. I had not peed in a squatting fashion since I was 10 years old at a really traumatic campout. So I closed my eyes, I squatted as low as I could go, and I peed. And I stand up, it was all done, I open my eyes, and there's a jogger, shaking her head at me while she runs off in her morning exercise. So I run back over to where we're waiting in line for the test, and it happens to be my turn. So I get in the car, I check the side view mirrors, and as I look in the side view mirror, Rigo is giving me 2 thumbs up. And I drive away. And 45 seconds into this driving test, the proctor tells me to pull over. I failed? You didn't even give me a chance to parallel park. I failed, and the yellow comment section was filled to the brim with the most criticism that you could possibly imagine for taking a driving test. So I go back to Rigo, he gets in the car, in the driver's seat, and he says, "Don't worry, Hillary, your name will be in lights someday, just like Jennifer Lopez." I just look at all the lights of the cars around me, and they're smirking drivers, licensed drivers, and we go back to the school. And a few weeks later, I did take the test again, and I passed, and Rigo made sure that we stopped at a bathroom along the way. But I have not driven since. Thank you.